Hey guys, today on the podcast, I'm talking to my good friend Richard Macaulay. Richard is a personal trainer and an OS original strength instructor. Richard has a great story about going from being kind of broken to being kind of whole. Anyway, fun conversation, and I think it's hopeful. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, guys, pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength Podcast. So, Richard, one of the reasons I want to talk to you was because I thought it would be neat to talk to a personal trainer across the pond who also had a funny accent. So I'm really glad you decided to join the podcast with me today.
Man, I could put on all sort of manner of British accents now. I know if I do that and you have anybody listening from any of these parts of Britain, I'm going to offend somebody. So I'm going to endeavour to stick with my own, but I might throw something in,
So
just
what
to.
you're saying is if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
So I don't know how many people you've just offended, but
Well, I Saturday Night Live did that well before I did it, so
all right, okay, yeah, blame
I'll,
them.
I'll
That'll
blame
work.
them. So no, I did think it would be neat though for you to tell about your journey,
Yeah.
from where you were to where you are, and how things have progressed, and what you're doing, where you're going.
Okay. Cool. So not go well, probably going far enough back. I think I played every conceivable, every possible sport in the area, right? So I lived down about 10 miles from where I am now, and it was a coastal town. So golf, sailing, rugby, and then tennis, badminton, running, all these sorts of things, the sort of outdoorsy kid stuff. So I think I did all those things. And I just tried to I think for far too long, I kept that mentality of I could do all these things as I got older. So as maybe the demands of your sport increased, because I was sort of a club or regional, or then it goes into within Edinburgh sort of catchment, brings that all in as well. So it's just the stage before like international honours. In a few of these age group sports, which was cool. It was good to get exposed to them all, but I thought I could try and do them all. And nowadays, I work with some young people that maybe do basketball, or they're hockey players, or they're rugby, whatever else. But I think maybe my parents, maybe they want to give me the opportunity. So I think we had a bit of a, well, he likes it, just let him do it. And that's cool, that's great. But then I got to the stage where, because I was doing everything, I was failing or not making the grade at that last sort of hurdle. So I decided to specialize in the ones that pair so well together: golf and rugby. Yep. Yeah, you're trying to work out a connection, and when you work it out, you can tell me what that connection is, because I still don't really know what that connection is. They're both outside on grass. There you go. That, and with a ball. That's probably the connection finished. So I played a bit of both. I went from being the super skinny kid. My dad occasionally described me as a match because I had red hair and I was really thin. It was a nice name to have growing up. Anyway, so I went with that, and I was that sort of shape, like this. And I discovered the kitchen. Discovered the kitchen was important if you want to get bigger and stronger and do well in sports like rugby. So I grew a little bit. So I was about, I don't know, 210 pounds or something. Quite low body fat, and I just fell in love with the gym, like all things gym. If I could squat or Olympic lift and deadlift and dips and pull-ups and anything, just more weight the better, I would do it. So for a couple of years there, I was doing some pretty intense sort of training. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, the standard Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I had rugby Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Sunday was just, I was just too sore whenever. But there's only so long you can keep all that sort of going, kind of growing and growing and growing, playing contact sports, trying to be the guy who would, if you dislocate my thumb, tape it up. I got a cut on my head, tape it up. Just, I'd hurt my ankle. I tore a ligament in my ankle, and I was like, we've got 5 minutes left. I'll just pass the ball when I get it. I'm not going off. I'm just going to keep going. And you can only do that for so long before everybody knows exactly what happens. Something doesn't go right. And I think I said this to you before. My moment was I was trying to pick up, it sounds really silly when I say it now, I was trying to pick up a cup of tea, right, from a stair. There's like 3 steps onto a low landing. And I tried to pick it up. And I jokingly blamed my wife because it was her mug and it was half full. So there was weight to it and she hadn't tied it up after herself. I kind of blame her when she's not around. So she can't hear me. And something just went in my back. You know, the sort of, and you fall and you're lying on the floor like a contortionist. And it was kind of that stage where when Karen walked up to see me, she was like, things don't even look like they're sitting right. It was just, it was grim. And I was away on holiday at the time, only up north, where they do speak a bit funny. But I can't do that accent. I would butcher that. Long story short on that one, I just spent a while just stretching weak muscles. Do you know what I mean? I just thought, I'm tight, I'll stretch. And that went on for a while. And then Will was born. And I think I said this to you as well. It was like a really sort of, I always thought, I'm going to be this active dad. I'm going to give him, like I always said, my most important thing to give somebody is the time, is your time. I know I had a grandpa that did that to me. It's the time you can spend with somebody. It's so, so valuable. I'm going to give him time. I'm going to be active and play and do all these things. And I remember holding him, putting him to sleep one night. And I went to put him in his cot. And my back kind of just, for want of a better word, went again. And I just fell into his cot with him. But it was kind of, the bars were up. So I was kind of at a funny angle. And he was lying next to me, just looking at me. And I was just thinking, I'm just the worst dad. I can't even pick up or put to bed this infant, let alone when he wants to play and roughhouse and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, I need to do something. So I kind of just decided to chuck out everything I thought I knew. Because whatever, it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I was doing the same thing over and over again, the same things, and thinking that something would miraculously just change. And it wasn't. And then I found an article by you, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Breaking Muscle. I want to say it was a Breaking Muscle article by yourself. You were talking about how much fun it would be to crawl for, I think initially it was 5 minutes. You didn't have to start with 5 minutes, but that was kind of like your goal was 5 minutes, and then you could progress towards maybe 10. And me with all my numbers in my head of what I could do in the gym, right? And the sort of my physicality on the game, on the pitch, I thought 5 minutes, piece of cake. So I went for 5 minutes, and I've said this to you before, I just finished a semi-functioning collection of body parts. Like, there was no body as one piece. There certainly wasn't any proper breathing. I was breathing as high up as I could possibly breathe. And I think my hands were slapping into place. There was no placing hands and feet. I did it out the front of my house. My neighbours in our courtyard must have been sending for help. I did not look in control. This man's having some sort of episode. And that was really humbling. But I had some relief in my back. Like that sort of gnawing discomfort and pain that was with me 80% of my day. I mean, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I actually stood up straight away. I didn't have to kind of just take a few seconds and correct myself. I just stood straight up and thought, I hate that guy, Tim. He is the worst, but my back doesn't hurt so much. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I read through the article again. It had a link to Original Strength. And I just started reading. I suppose this is kind of the story that a lot of people tell, right? They find something, they tried something, they go looking for more information. And I started reading up some information. And I was thinking, well, I wasn't breathing properly. My head was down like this. It was, I was barely even engaging in a gait pattern. I think I was more like that as well. But still, something had happened and it felt better. And then there was no course being run over where I was, which is fair enough. And I managed to find out that it so happened that I think Seth Munsey's gym, Iron Republic, he was closing it to go and pursue other things with disc golf. And both the workshops were going to be back-to-back weekends. So my dad and I went on a sort of lads trip and made the pilgrimage to Monterey. And I did the level 1 with Seth and Rick Garcia, which was amazing because they spent an hour and a half, 2 hours talking about breathing, which I thought was really weird. Initially, I was thinking, how long can you talk about breathing? We're doing it as we're talking. But as I was doing it, we were doing our retest, our baseline movements. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go along with this. And I was doing a squat, I think it was. And I was standing up and I was sitting for some of this as well. And I got up, my back wasn't sore again. I thought, I'm breathing and my back's not sore. So even if the pain comes back, there's something in this that's worth exploring. And this is me on the workshop. Even just the cues I was getting with where to put my head and my chin position and my head position while breathing. We weren't even lengthening ourselves out at some of this stage. It was literally just like a chin tuck or whatever. And then we did head control and head positioning. And once again, I was like, this feels really good. So I spent that next week. We'd gone on a bit of a road trip with Dad and I must have been bugging him, because every time we stopped, I was sitting doing this. I'm looking over his shoulder everywhere. It's like a gas station or a restaurant. And I'm like looking for the waitress and just doing different head nods and different things like that, just trying to practice, so that when I went into the level 2 the following week, I felt like I had an understanding and a certain grounding with the level 1. And then level 2, I got to meet yourself and Danny and Dr. Dan and Dr. Mike and, loads of other amazing people as well. And it was almost information overload. You can imagine what it's like if you get all that information on weekend 1 and then all that information on weekend 2. So I just went home and just tried to do everything. And I probably did what I do best and tried to just, go to elevated rolling, right? Before rolling, and thinking to myself, well, this rolling stuff isn't great, because I've gone straight to elevated rolling and I've gone straight to knees up crawling. I've gone straight to loading, whatever. So I still was in that mindset a little bit. So I had to pull myself back constantly, repeatedly. And I think I pulled myself back well, because I was starting my clients at the bottom. I know we all have a good place we start at, but I was just going in pretty much with everybody at the most regressed or the most baseline entry level for every movement, just to see how people responded, regardless of where they were. I was just going, let's start at the beginning with everybody. And they all were starting to respond really well. Knees were not hurting as much, a lot of backs, shoulders. We were even breathing properly. We weren't getting as tense in our traps, because people are breathing up top too much. And I think that I went, oh, maybe there's something in that. Maybe I should learn from my clients now. And I regressed myself back to a starting point. And you know what? It was when I started to be able to, once again, go back into my life as a husband and father, forget being an athlete in any shape or form. And I could do all those little things on the floor with Will, and then get up and I almost expect pain. It's terrible to expect pain, but not have it. Then you're onto something really cool, right? And I think as time went on, I think as Dan John says, the warm-up became the workout. He talks about sometimes his warm-ups becoming the workout. OS was my warm-up. Then I would go and work out, get onto the workout. And over time I thought, well, there was some of these warm-ups are challenging me. My heart rate's up, I'm feeling good. And I was running out of time. So sometimes I didn't do the workout, but I thought, this is great. So I just started to put that more and more into workouts with my clients, and had more and more smiling faces leaving gyms and studios, and more people recommending people. And I thought, this is it. I'm a convert, So that's kind of how I came to it and how it got me started, I suppose, in that very short way of putting it to you.
So it's neat. Just off of just trying to crawl, your back just felt amazing, drastically different.
Yeah. And what it's like, right? The discomfort, the pain, the niggles, it came back. Now that's probably because after doing those things, I went about life and then sat down and sat on the couch. Do you know what I mean? Which can ruin a lot of people, So had I not sat down, it probably would have felt better for longer. But I thought, no, what made me feel good? What made me feel good? Right, the crawling made me feel good. I was humbled, and maybe I had to go back lower than 5 minutes to feel like I was nice, sense of the level of control. But I was like, you're just going to have to put yourself right back to as low as you could go. I don't mean low as in it was a bad thing to start. Just right, 5 minutes of challenge. Let's go for 4 to see what 4 is like. If that's a challenge, let's go for just go back as far as you need to go back. But yeah, it felt better, so I just explored it, and I kind of then fell in love with crawling. Crawling for quite a while became my form of strength training. like every conceivable form of crawling, just for variety's sake, became my form of strength training. And it was, it was amazing. It really is.
So of all the, I'm just curious because I don't know, of all the different types of crawling you did for your strength training, what was the most brutal or the hardest type of crawling?
Well, backwards, I found myself being better at backwards. I don't really know. Not when I first tried it. I first tried it after teaching a session with kids, and I'd hit the 12-minute mark going forwards. So I thought, right, my target being that 10-minute mark, like hit 10 minutes. And before I even tried doing anything else. So I then went to backwards, and backwards at 2 minutes, just like everything in my middle was just, forget even my shoulder, it's just my middle was just screaming at me. And I was really trying to focus on like where my breathing was, my head position, even like how low my knees were to the ground. I was trying to make my technique really good, thinking, right, if I don't want to compensate, and I don't just want to stick my palm up in the air, and I don't just want to drop my head down. I was trying to have proper technique. And then my midsection, everything in my middle was on fire. So backwards is really hard. But so for the longest time, it was just just backwards crawling in any form was difficult. But I did it because I was actually, I don't know, I think I was always quite strong in my shoulders and my arms when I played rugby. So I think I had a lot of, even though I'd lost some weight again, I had a lot of strength maybe. So maybe I liked it because I got to kind of do some of the similar sort of movements or movement patterns that I did when I was playing rugby, with regards to pressing and whatnot. But the one to this day that I still can't really do in the form of, I can do it technique-wise, but if we're purely thinking about duration, lateral, just going sideways. So when I was doing all my crawling, if my best time going forwards was it was 55 minutes, my best time going backwards, ironically, was longer, was an hour. I could only do about 8 minutes going sideways before, and my breathing was starting to really go. Plus, I think I'm quite long in the back for my height and more like length in my back than my legs. I genuinely think my body position starts to go. And I have to just drop my knees and think, right, you're going to have to just regress yourself for a bit here. So not that we use lateral a lot, maybe, and maybe you're teaching people crawling, but if I had to do a form of crawling, because I remember Rick Garcia introducing me to that in the workshop, saying, you work with rugby players, they don't just move forwards and backwards, right? We move at angles, you move sideways, all that sort of stuff. So he introduced me to that. So thanks very much, Rick. That one always slayed me. But the one I did most of, was backwards. I found incredibly hard, but that's what made me want to do it more. And it became my best one. You know what I mean? So worked on my weakness.
Challenged you.
Yeah.
And did you say you got up to like an hour backwards crawling?
I did. My secret technique to my crawling was I just added between 30 seconds and a minute every week. So I might crawl, and for a while I would crawl forwards, a long crawl forwards on a Monday, and the following week I would do it backwards, and I'd do other ones like hills and whatever that were shorter, but my long crawls were on Monday. I had time, I had a block of time, and I used to alternate forwards and backwards, which is really funny when you do that in a sports center near squash courts and everything, and then other classes are finishing and people are coming past and they don't know what you're doing. I've been stopped by an elderly gentleman once who tried to ask me if I needed help, and I said no, but he couldn't hear me. And we had a conversation while I was crawling, but I was crawling backwards away from him, so he just followed me for a while. Yeah, it's brilliant, but it engaged. I've been set upon by dogs. I had somebody asking me once, "What are you doing?" Because she went away, she came past me, and 15 minutes later she came back, and I was still there. And "What are you doing?" I went, "I'm crawling." "No, I'm training." She was, "What are you training for?" I'm like, "I'm tired. I can't think of a clever reply." I just went, "Life." And she went, "Very good, carry on," and then just walked off. So I had weird conversations. But no, I just added 30 seconds to a minute every week over the course of like a year and a half or longer in all sorts of weather. I just thought, I'm just going to do it on this day. If it's raining, it's raining. If it's sunny, it's sunny. Just wear different clothing. And got up to, I hit an hour backwards. And then I thought, I don't want to go for an hour and 1 minute. I'm time to do some hill work. I just had that was it. I thought hills. Or I added bands. You have chains. I didn't have chains, but I had little resistance bands and everything. I thought, time to load it in a different way and bring the duration right down again. And sleds, I've got a sled. So I started doing that because I thought, I can't mentally to get yourself up for just being your knees off the floor for an hour. Like, you start to hate Mondays, right? I mean, you could. Yeah. So I thought, nope, something else. So yeah, hit an hour and 22 seconds, 60 minutes and 22 seconds. And I went, no, I'm good.
There gets to be that point when you discover when enough is enough.
And I didn't really know where it was going. I'd had it in my head. When I hit 50 minutes, I thought, I wonder if I could do an hour. I wonder. And then actually that last 10 minutes, I just went from 50. It was 51. I went from 51 just to 60. So I hit 51 and just got over it in a few seconds, like in 30 seconds. I thought to myself, my breathing's still good. Now, I think I've said to you before, I've broken my nose so many times at rugby that sometimes breathing in through my nose and out through my nose becomes this huge challenge. So at about the 40-minute mark, I had to go in through my nose, out through my mouth. But I was still taking deep breaths. And I still feel that breathing was all where it should be. So I thought, I don't want to spend the next X number of weeks chipping away to 60. Let's just keep going and see what happens. And I hit 60 and 22 seconds or whatever it was, the time I looked at my watch. And I stopped. And as I was walking back to the car, I thought to myself, well, what now? And it's like the devil and the angel. It was like, what now? And the other side of me just went, you're going to do something else. Just, because I don't really know where that's going to go. So yeah, that's the crawling. That was the crawling story, and it's all because of your breaking muscle article. So it's technically your fault.
Sorry about that. All right, but so you fell in love with crawling enough though to where you created like a charity event around crawling, right?
Yeah, we started Crawl for Cure. Now the wife and I were thinking of doing something, and I thought I've got a pretty decent engine on me. I thought, we're talking about doing endurance events, but I didn't really want to do cycling. Cycling's huge in the area we live in. Loads of really nice areas to cycle down by the coast and up in the hills. You travel 15 miles, you've gone from way up in these hills called the Lammermuir Hills. You can see miles and miles from Edinburgh down towards the borders and everything, or 15 minutes you're on the coast. So there's loads of good cycle routes, but I thought, I wanted to promote a way of moving that wasn't more sitting down. That's nothing wrong with. I like to go on my bike. I just thought, right, there's loads of cyclists out. There's loads of people doing good things. Maybe I could try and promote something different. And I'm not the best runner because I just get fed up with, and it's just on me. That's not because running is not good. I think, nope, this is not for me today. So I thought I was doing crawling and I was really enjoying it. And I was starting to get to these times, but I had no idea how far I could go. I'd done a half mile in like 31 minutes, but I always crawl slowly, like deliberately slowly, because I felt after breaking my wrist once, when I started crawling as well, and I was slamming my hands down, it was uncomfortable on my wrist. And I thought, this is not control. I'm just falling into my next step here. There's no control going on there. So I started letting breathing dictate the pace of it quite often. So I was doing, I don't know if you'd posted something once about like with a leopard crawl, like you're stalking prey. And I was doing that, which probably added to the comedic element when people saw me doing it, like I was stalking nothing. Anyway, so I started to do more of that and just deliberately move sloth-like and place my hands and feet. So I don't think my distances were always very good. But so I thought when doing Crawl for Cure and doing a distance, I thought, well, I'm going to have to, speed up or do something differently. But there's some amazing hills and peaks around where we are. So I thought this is a way that I could potentially get people to come and join me. It turned out that people came and walked with me. My friend crawled the last one, which was amazing to do that with him. But nobody wanted to crawl the whole thing with me. So the three hills, the gradient changes, right? So some of it could be like quite steep, and then it was downhill, and it was on rocks, and it was grass, there was roots, it was on angles. So there's all sorts. Some bits were easier than normal. Some bits when you're going downhill were harder. We tried to pick routes that had a mix. And I set out to I thought, we'll try and raise £500 as a bit of a pipe dream for WaterAid. I'd been seeing a lot of things on TV, and it was heartbreaking. So I thought, WaterAid, that sounds amazing. Anything you can do to help there is incredible. So we'll do it for them. And 500 was a bit of a lofty goal because I didn't think people would get it. Kind of he's crawling. And if you type in crawl for cure into Instagram, you get things like pub crawls. People raising money and going on different pubs, which if they're raising money for charity, all power to them. But I didn't think people would necessarily get it, other than my clients who already thought it was a bit weird. I mean, they did it in class, but I mean, to go out and be seen there, there's that, people get self-conscious. So we ended up raising £3,000, which was amazing. We smashed the target, which I believe goes quite a long way to, pipes being built, pumps being put in. So every little bit helps. Every bit helps in that regard. And that we've done that one, and there's a couple of things in the pipeline. Excuse the pun, in the pipeline, but I've been trying to zero in on how weird is too weird with a crawl, and how long is too long, and how long or how far could I go, or whatever, So I've got other ideas, but it's just what I'm allowed to do as well, right?
Right.
Karen really helped me, and some friends, they really bought in to help me out that last one, even just walking along next to you in case you needed something. And I mentioned a couple of ideas, and I got a couple of weird looks, so I just kind of shelved them for a little while, and we'll see what happens. But it was good because I got people talking. I met people on the crawls, and I spoke to them afterwards. And it wasn't so much here's our business card. It was more like, well, we're doing it for this charity. It's just a development and movement. I got to talk about original strength, and then what about what Karen and I do as a business. So it sparked some good conversations. Yeah. So
would you say that potentially crawling as an adult could change a person's life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So for me personally, I'm thinking, had I not done that, had I not started, so once again, maybe I should go, thanks for your breaking muscle article, right? Because it was because of that one. But had I not started that, would I have found something else? Yeah. Would I have found original strength? I like to think that I hopefully the journey would have taken me in that direction, but I might not have. I mean, I'm never going to know that now. But I found original strength through your article, through crawling. And it was, I guess, I've always liked to pride myself on being that active dad. I don't just mean active as in we're always playing a sport or doing something. I just mean really present, sitting reading, playing video games, playing with Lego. I mean, it's just, always available and making myself available for that. Because as I said before, time is this most valuable thing, and always wanting to give time. So I like to think that without finding that, and without, realizing, okay, you're not very good at this, but stick with it. Don't just go, that's not for me, and move on. There's something in this that I was really trying to be aware of how it made me feel, beyond just you feel a bit sort of the endorphins are flowing, or muscles are pumped up, or you're out of breath, the heart rate's up, whatever else. Like, how is it actually making me feel? Going, why did you go into this? Right, you wrote about it could connect your body together. Like, geez, I really don't feel connected right now in anything. Okay, let's give it a shot. Wow, I was bad at that, but I felt a wee bit more connected, just a wee bit more. What if I got a wee bit more tomorrow? Right, or a week more the next day. I mean, imagine in a year of reconnected. And Will was young enough that it was okay because he was just on the floor. So, but as soon as he started moving around, I was crawling with him. I was just crawling. Maybe his knees were on the floor, maybe my knees were up. He started walking. I was crawling with him. So, but that changed for me as an adult hugely, because it allowed me to do the one thing I really wanted to do. And that would be that present and active husband and father. Forget even about coaching, or as an athlete, or as a better coach. Just that first, the thing the most important driving force for me was that. It allowed me to do that. And then, like ripples in a pond, it just radiated out into other parts of my life, which made me read more, learn more, teach other people about it in the hope that it does the same thing for them. And it has. So yeah, I think it can I could seriously think it can change people's lives massively.
That's awesome. Richard, so you're in Scotland,
mm-hmm.
and you train clients and help people move better, feel better. Do you train in person or online, or how, like if somebody's in Scotland and they're listening to this and they want to check you out, how can they find you?
Well, wife and I run a business called Body Care We Care. All right. Karen started this like 25 years ago. She's trained as a Pilates instructor, but has been to your workshop as well, the one we did down in England. So she's incorporating a lot of these sorts of movements and things into her classes. And herself and her clients are loving it and seeing the benefit. But we were, I'd say, exclusively in person, quite local to us. We're lucky that our client base was within sort of 10 miles. It just so happened to be that way. And then this, the dreaded COVID, right? Just put everything online. And I think I was joking with you that I'd bought shares in Zoom. I hadn't bought shares in Zoom, but everybody had to discover. I was panicking. I was like, okay, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and is there Instagram Live? Can I do, and I made videos from YouTube that I gave out to people, et cetera, et cetera. But we went exclusively onto Zoom, and I do one-to-one teaching in person if people want to, if they feel it's safe. Like I've had people, somebody caught a cold, and even though they knew they hadn't caught anything more sinister, they went, I'll just do it online, and we do a Zoom call or whatever else. But I do one-to-ones in person, and we've taught a couple of classes face-to-face, and we're going to throw, we do 1 or 2 a month, but a lot of our stuff is now on Zoom. So yeah, they find us online, on Facebook, on Instagram, and the majority of our classes now, or most of our regular classes in a week, are all through the power of Zoom. Yeah.
And what did they search to find you?
They would just search body care, we care.
Body care, we care.
And they'd find that on Google, and that would then also take you. The same thing on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Richard, thanks for sharing your story. This has been pretty neat.
No, thank you.
And if you're listening, outside of myself and Alex Salkin, maybe, Richard has written the most articles on the originalstrength.net website.
Is that true?
Yeah. So outside of me and Alex, I think you're the number one contributor. And wow. You may have surpassed Alex. I would have to go tally it up and look. Anyway, thank you so much, Richard. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend.